Welcome to Hospitality. My name is Stefan Zarnecki of Black Tie Tours. With me, as always, Wesley Jones of Tour Cascadia. Cole Rogers, local artist, is around somewhere artisting, but
here I am.
Yeah, he might pop in audio-wise a little bit here. But we're joined today by a published author of 2 books and numerous articles in the New York Times, Food and Wine, GQ, and more. An Olympic snowboarding reporter, a brewer, native Newburghite, and owner brewer of Wolves and People Brewery here in Newburgh, Christian DeBenedetti.
Beautiful
Did I
pronunciation.
say it right?
Beautiful, beautiful.
You know, it had some
Bravo.
poetry in it.
Bravo.
Thank you for having us out to your family farm.
Yes, thank you for being here. This is super cool.
Yeah.
A nice night.
It's a
Perfect for it.
beautiful night. I haven't run to get my coat yet.
Yeah.
And there's only a couple bugs. It's not too bad. But this place is just striking. So Cole's gotten some wonderful shots that we'll fold in for the video. But it is just like this utopia out here, I think. And can you tell us a little bit about the farm and because you grew up out here, right?
I did. Yeah. So, it's a great story. My family moved here in 1967. My parents were in Portland with my 3 oldest brothers at the time, and they were looking for somewhere to get, kind of get out of town and get some more room. They found this farm, which had been, pretty much, vacant and overgrown, like head-high weeds for like 4 or 5 years. And at the time, the farm was a lot bigger than it is now, about 85 acres. But they made the big decision to move the whole family out here and take over the hazelnut operation, which was, just like I said, completely engulfed in weeds. It'd been going since the 20s, but, really, really just left.
Gone to seed.
Yeah. Absolutely. So my dad was in the meat packing business, and my mom was drawn to this place for the potential of, having the boys out here and raising a family and maybe more kids. And so, they took on the challenge. And at the time, Newburgh was only, 5,000, maybe 3,000 people, I think, in 67.
Wow.
A
Totally
lot
different.
smaller, culturally very different than it is today. And so they decided to make the leap. And I came along in 73, and there's one more brother, so there's 5 boys total. We were all raised here. They got the hazelnut orchard resurrected, and inside the barn here was all this hazelnut drying equipment. So we were processing and drying hazelnuts here and selling them into the Oregon filbert industry. So that's the way I grew up, watching all that happen every year. And then over time, without going into too much detail, the farm kind of has changed and transformed in these really cool ways. There was an artist that took up residence here for a while. An Oregon Barrel Works was formerly called Francois Frere of Oregon, and Rick DeFerrari, a local barrel maker, started here on this farm for a year and then outgrew the space. I actually worked for him for a summer, and then he outgrew it and moved to McMinnville. And after that, there was a winery for 10 years in here, J.K. Carrier, which is up on...
No kidding.
Yes, it started here. Up
Mr.
on
Prosser.
Yeah, Mr. Jim Prosser. He was a big idol of mine because he was able to start fermenting stuff in this barn, and it was so good, like the 99 vintage.
Killer.
Like, he was a star coming out of the gates, So that's like a short history from 99 to 09. He was here, and I moved back from living on the East Coast to start pursuing this idea, which I had since college. But so I always wanted to come back here, at least since I was about 18. I thought I would do a brewery here on the farm in some way, shape, or form.
Wow. And so growing up on... Oh, yes. First, tell us what we're drinking.
What are we
or
drinking?
What you guys are drinking.
Okay,
anyway.
okay. Well, this is Postman. This is an American Pale Ale.
Okay.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
It is a... there we go. Cheers. This is a 5.6%, really like classic American Pale Ale style beer. It's a dry hop with Oregon, lemon drop, and Cascade hops. It's just meant to be a really clean, easy drinking classic pale ale.
Perfect.
And it's named after the Postman. Was in question here is Sebastian Brucher, who gave the name of Newburgh to Newburgh. He was from a German town called Neuburg. So with a brewery, and he was a beer guy. He grew hops and stuff. Like, amazing story.
That's cool.
Yeah, not many people know that a lot about him. So Sebastian, there's Brucher Street in Newburgh.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of history, and I delved in, and his land actually covered the land we're on now. This is like the corner of it, of his huge land grant. And so, I got interested in that. And so this was on our opening list, and we still make it all the time. So it's just meant to be classic, hopefully.
Just a go-to.
Go-to, yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, this is gorgeous.
Cool. Enjoy.
I am.
I still like the smell of beer. It's just
good.
when it hits my lips.
That's surprising because normally when you have an adverse reaction to an alcohol, the smell is the first thing that turns your stomach.
I know. I'll get there someday. You guys, maybe in Vegas.
Yeah.
Well, we'll figure it out.
Jaeger is the one I
Ooh,
can't do.
So you grew up in this like idyllic setting. Were you and like 5 boys?
Yeah.
So there had to have been some shenanigans, right? Like
Yeah, it was
wounds
insane.
and explosions and killing things and like what was?
Oh man.
Come on, what was it like?
I mean, so you've seen that movie, The Royal Tenenbaums, when all the kids are running around on the roof, like shooting each other with pellet guns and stuff. It was kind of like that, all the time. And I mean, we all feel really lucky that we grew up here, but it was also like a lot of chaos, in the in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And then things kind of quieted down. Most of the boys had moved on to, high school or into college, into the Navy. A couple of my brothers did that, and like things got kind of more quiet. But for a long period of time, it was kind of the Wild West.
Catching
and my
snakes
mom, I mean, she is such a saint. She was able to, run this place as a single mom for many years, looking after us, looking after the Hazelnuts, pursuing her own art career, and really, keeping it all together, and in a really chaotic time. So we all look up to her. She and my stepfather still live on the farm, and they're doing great. They come up to the brewery all the time, and
cool.
they're just huge inspiration. I mean, we obviously wouldn't be here on so many levels, without their support and stuff.
Yeah. We could do probably a whole hour just on the farm itself. But last question about the farm specifically, there was an art piece on the farm or something when you came that was from the artist maybe that lived here. Something I don't know too much about it, but it was something suspended from the ceiling or I don't know. Can you just tell? I don't know what I'm talking about, obviously, but
no, you're talking about the Soul Boat.
the Soul
Yeah.
Boat.
This
Great.
is a sculpture in the attic of the barn. It's still there.
Okay.
The short version is Larry Kirkland is an Oregon artist. He went to Oregon State and became a really prominent artist around the country in the 80s, particularly. And he had this piece that was in the Smithsonian Museum. And then it became a part of a traveling tour and was being put in different spaces around the country. And the last stop on this art tour was here in Portland at the Merrillhurst College Art Gym, which is this art, gallery essentially. At the art gym. And,
that seems a little oxymoronic, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and so he puts it there, and my mother was at the show, and they got to talking, and he was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this piece. It's so big, I don't want to send it back to DC. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with this piece now. So, and my mom's like, why don't you come out and look in the attic of our barn? I think it might actually go beautifully up there. And this is just the way she thinks.
Yeah.
And it's so creative. And he's like, okay, I'll come out and take a look. And he decided on the spot, I will install it here. So it's been there for 25 years.
That's so
and
cool.
It's truly beautiful. We can't make it public because the back part of the barn has to go through a massive renovation essentially in order to be open to the public. So we've taken small private tours and groups up there to see it on occasion. But really we have to, in order to share it with the public in the way that we hope to someday, we'll have to do a lot of work on the barn, and making it publicly accessible, and and to really bring Larry back to talk about the piece and the whole story. But one of the beautiful things about it is the whole time it's been up there through all these projects in the barn, it's been kind of this thing kind of looking over us in a way. And like particularly Jim would talk about bringing people up there and on occasion, and people have been here, some of them have seen it, and it's just kind of this little secret thing that we get to share sometimes. So and it hits people pretty hard sometimes, seeing it. It's very, very striking, huge thing hanging up there. So our dream, I would say, is to get to the point where we can fully restore the piece, make the building accessible in that way, open it up and share it with the world.
Yeah.
It's just a massive undertaking.
Hopefully some
The
grants or
photos are
something.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
really like overwhelming.
It is kind of, and we just feel like we're the custodians. We want to make sure nothing bad ever happens to it. But it's kind of inspiring. We will go up there sometimes and just chill out and sit in the silence and contemplate things. So
Well, you have experience with grants, getting so that's my sweet ass segue.
That was a really good
Like
segue.
that? Little grant for anyway.
I wasn't sure how you were going to do that.
I'm getting better at this thing. Now I've ruined it. Anyway, so you got in part of the your process in the beer making was you're interested in making beer, but then you got some grants to do research.
I did.
Correct? Tell us a little bit about that process and where you went. What you got out of it?
Wow. Thanks for asking. It feels like so long ago and like totally another lifetime. But when I was a freshman at Whitman College in Walla Walla, I started homebrewing badly. My first beer was terrible, drain pour. And the second one was a lot better. But I got a few good recipes, and I got obsessed with making homebrew and reading about it. In my senior year, there was a grant program called the Thomas J. Watson Fellowship. And I won't go on too long about it, but it's kind of like a Rhodes or a Fulbright. You propose an independent study grant, and if you're selected, you can go out and do that for a year. You have to be overseas. You can't come home. You have to be alone. There's all these rules. It's like, they're like, if you win and you believe in this concept enough, you're going to go out there and do it. And there's some kind of like hard and fast things. But you're right out of college, and I'm not to say that anyone would ever be disappointed to win a grant like this, but it's also not easy to leave home with a backpack. You've got 12 months. You can't come back or you forfeit the rest of your grant. And you got to go out and pursue this interest, which for me was, relatively new. And I was, just getting into the beer world, but also the most amazing opportunity of a lifetime. So I took that moment to just kind of dream big, pick up the phone, call my heroes in the beer world, whose books I had and so forth, and just be like, hi, I'm calling from Walla Walla. I got a grant to study beer in Europe. Can you help me? And
who's this?
Who's this? Yeah. No, not Americans. Yeah. American beer is terrible. So I would run into that later. But the short version is the doors opened for me, and people were incredible, sending me lists of contacts, sending me, hey, come and stay in my house. Like, oh, you need to go down here, go to this town, meet this person. And so I embarked on this 12-month trip when I was, 22, and had, a whole entire year to wander through Western Europe, particularly Central and a little bit of Eastern Europe, and I spent 3 months in Africa too, looking at home brewing. So it was a crazy year. It really did set me on this path, and I met a lot of people that I still work with, do business with. One of my business partners in the brewery I met on that trip. People I look up to. It was just totally incredible. And I sometimes I flash back to it, and it really feels like a dream. It was very hard. I got sick in Africa. All sorts of stuff went wrong, but also in the end, I had this trip that was just like unbelievable.
What's the short story on African beer brewing? I would never equate, beer with Africa, but obviously, they make beer everywhere, right? So
yeah. So all around the continent, home brewing is important, except in extremely Muslim areas. Even in some Muslim areas, there are enclaves of Christian brewers, particularly Christian missionaries and people introduced brewing. But there's a thought that brewing came. That kind of held on way back to prehistory, Babylonian, Assyrian times, Mesopotamian times where brewing was going on, certainly in Egypt. So there's a brewing tradition in the Fertile Crescent, and there was brewing traditions that came in from Europe, in the 1500s and so forth. Anyway, home brewing's all over the place, and they're using millet and sorghum, a lot of grains that don't really grow outside of that are the kind of staple food source grains there.
Yeah.
Kefir, maybe.
There's, it was such an amazing experience. I would go out to these villages on a tip basically, and they would say like, so and so is a great brewer. You got to go see her. She makes this awesome beer in this one market. I would like find my way there, and then be sitting there, trying to communicate in broken French, which was terrible.
Wow.
And learning, because a lot of people would speak French in that area of the sub-Saharan desert area, and learning about it, and then drinking out of a gourd, usually like a hollowed out gourd. And it's kind of a little bit I'm gonna really freak some people out by saying this, but it has some things in common with natural wine, cider, and spontaneous beer, and the fact that they tend to be light, cidery, tart, kind of almost sometimes you drink it and it's still fermenting and you can see live yeast in there, which sounds in a way sounds unappetizing, but actually incredibly delicious.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Lemony, tart. Sometimes there's a little smoky character on the grain because of the way they dry it.
I might be able to try that. That might sound sour beer. I don't mind as much.
Yeah, it's tart. Some of it was tart. It was all different.
I miss Africa, but I was too young, and the group I was with wouldn't let me drink. So
Yeah.
it's time to go back.
Yeah, it was a crazy experience. It was
Yeah.
so good, but yeah, I learned a lot there, and it just like anywhere in the world, brewing was just for the reason I went was to go and see what kind of technology was being used to make beer. That was like my whole project was like, who is still using X, Y, or Z, and why? Because we have all the modern things available to us for making beer, right? So why would a little village still use, a coal-fired brewery, or why would they still, put hay in the mash tun here, or why would they still, use like some very strange ingredients that were, or exotic ingredients in Belgium or down in Africa for that matter. So it was just a chance to kind of like peer into these cultures, see why they're preserving traditions, and often it was all just about like it is today, local flavor, like what people like.
Right.
Like, oh, we didn't change it. The beer's good. Why would we stop making it that way?
Yeah.
So it was a great adventure.
And so you started writing, and you wrote about your adventures?
A little, not
little
as
bit?
much. I did. I've published some stories about it. My first story that I got published came out of that trip directly. So that put me on the path towards journalism, and it was a great moment for me to like get a story published, to like get something actually published in a real magazine, and like see it in print, and it changed my life. It was like a lightning bolt moment for me.
Yeah, and tell us about the books. There's two that you worked on. Are they yours? You co-wrote?
I wrote one. I wrote one myself, The Great American Ale Trail.
There we go.
This was a travel book that came out in 2011, and then again in 2016, like an expanded version. Oh. And this was kind of the outgrowth of that round the world trip, but based in the U.S. to go to breweries, learn from the people who make the beer, learn why the communities embrace it.
How many are in there?
500.
Have you been to them all?
About a little more than half.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, a little more than half.
Yeah.
There's just no possible budget.
I was going to say, like, holy shit, 500.
It's like all the wineries in the valley.
Yeah, or in the country.
Or
that's what it is. More equates. Yeah.
From 500 though, it's
Exactly.
they're in our backyard.
It's a lot of
I know
places.
maybe 150 to 200 of them.
Okay.
So there was no way to get to them all, but this was a great thing for me to be able to do. Go out and pitch this right when I moved back to Oregon, actually, from the East Coast, to really get focused on this. This kind of came along. It was pitched to me, and I was like, oh my God, I can't not do this project. And I had gotten my name out there as a travel writer, and I was approached by an agent to say, well, here about beer. Would you like to cook up an idea together? And then 3 months later, I got this book deal and left home again. So I had been away for 10 years, moved home to like see the family and start the brewery, and all of a sudden, book deal, you're leaving again to go. You have a year and a half deadline. Excuse me, year and a half deadline, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to get that done. Yeah. And that was also difficult, but dream project, but not easy.
Right. To go into a book project already with financial backing essentially is like, that's a good way to start.
It was cool. I mean, I'm very lucky. So fortunate. Got to go out and do it. Got it done, and that actually kind of set me off on a path of beer writing, which I'd been an English major. I got to meet like my heroes in beer writing after college, and they were encouraging. So, for a while, it was like, I'm putting this brewery idea on hold. I'm going to go out and be a beer writer. So it was so fun. Did that a few years later. I wrote this cookbook with my friend Andrea Sloniker. Okay. She lives in Portland. She's written about 6 books. She's an acclaimed food, recipe developer, and we're personal friends. And so she approached me to pitch this idea, and we went out and got this out there in 2016. So right around the time the brewery was opening, we did this cookbook. And this was all about beer pairing, so like taking different beer styles, pairing them with her dishes. This was very fun because we spent 3 months tasting her dishes with beers, and then retesting until we felt like they were easy recipes that people could do at home. And so that was really fun too. And
that sounds like a good way to spend time.
Yeah,
just
it was
eating
good.
and drinking.
Right up your alley.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you're going to see a massive explosion in sales on your books. Based on our podcast.
Awesome.
Our tens of viewers.
Every little bit helps. Every little bit helps.
Yeah, no, tell me about it. Exactly. Well, what a dream.
Yeah.
What a dream. And
unreal.
And I before we move on to other things, snowboarding, reporting in the Olympics?
I'm a skier, but I got, I'm a big believer, and I've been very lucky and I've been unlucky. We all spin the wheel of fortune sometimes. But sometimes, and not to get too metaphysical, if you ask the universe for things, it will show up. I mean, not every time. And the getting to work at the Olympics is one of those things. And I just, I played, this is a true story. I played poker with a friend who was a reporter at the New York Times. And, oh God, I wonder if I would love to send this to him, but he tipped his cards to me. And I saw that he had a terrible hand, and he was trying to bluff. And I bluffed him out of the final hand in my first poker game. And he was so embarrassed and upset. He's like, I can't believe that was so bad. But we became friends in that moment. Because he was like, oh, you took, it was like nothing. It was like $80. I mean, for a poker game and with like 6 guys drinking bourbon. Anyway, I emailed him a couple years later to be like, hey, Charlie, I would love to work at the Olympics. Does anyone, just, again, dreaming, just completely throwing something out there. I didn't have a job. I had left my other job. I was freelancing. Do you know anyone who, because I speak Italian, it's going to be in Torino. What do you think? And he goes, oh, I'll pass it around. You never know. And one day later, this complete stranger calls me and goes, hey, you know what? I got your email from Charlie. And it turns out that we actually are looking for an Italian speaker. And I'm not that great, but I can get by. And would you be available? And all this stuff. And like suddenly on the spot, I was moving to Torino for the Olympic Games. I ended up being on the finish line, working at the half pipe, interviewing the athletes as they came through competition.
Wow.
I was the first reporter to get to talk to them. So it was like this incredible, weird, surprising thing that happened. Just kind of a dream almost too. I made great friends there, and then suddenly it was over, and I moved back penniless and cold to New York. Be like, oh, that was great, like, whoa,
what's next?
Yeah, what's next? So, there's some very lucky things have happened, and that parlayed into some other cool experiences. But it was fun. Yeah, it was good.
Wow.
So travel writing became my thing, and
just make your future, right?
What's that?
Make your future. Make it like.
I think you can make your own luck a little bit. Yeah. If you keep doggedly pursuing something you're passionate about,
sure.
At some point the chips start to fall, hopefully. But they don't always. But if you give up, then you don't have a chance to get there. Yeah. So that's something my mom really taught us. Like, you just got to envision it first, and then hopefully it will work out. And when it doesn't, if you've given it your all, then you can't be disappointed.
Right. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
There you go.
No.
Michael Scott.
That's right. I love that.
Was that Wooden?
I think it was Michael Jordan.
Jordan?
I want to say that. Wayne Gretzky?
UCLA coach, John Wooden. John Wooden?
I don't know.
I don't know.
You can name any one of the great overachievers.
Yeah, right. There you go.
I just remember Michael Scott.
Michael Scott. Okay, so let's talk beer.
Yeah, let's talk. What are you doing? What are you making?
What are we making?
What are you stoked about right now?
Well, first of all, I want to say, not just me. I have a great team. So it's not me. I used to brew a lot of the beer, most of the beer for whole chunks of time. But so I got to give a shout out to Paul Ray, who started here 7 months ago in the brewery, and former head brewer of Little Beast is now working here.
Cool.
And today we also made a new hire for a full-time brewer starting in 2 weeks.
Wow.
She's going to help out in the cellar. So I want to make sure that to share the love with my team, because I'm not in there brewing right now, and I still write recipes and guide things. But what we are doing together is brewing a lot of different sort of takes on some of our established beers. Like Postman is always going on, but now we're experimenting with all these different beers. And as this season,
Postwoman,
you never know, could happen.
I'm just spitballing here. Okay.
We have a lot of like fruit and stuff coming into ripeness for the spring and summer, so that like gives us awesome opportunity to brew with seasonal ingredients. And that's kind of like something we we're really focused on here, is brewing with the seasons and with the local ingredients we can. So we're going to brew a mustard flower IPA.
Whoa.
It's going to be interesting.
Wow.
Yep. That's going to be part of this Oregon Conservation Group land grant sort of a group that's spreading awareness of all the land grant areas in the state. And we're going to be making some beer wine hybrids as well. We've been doing a lot of those lately, which is fun. So Chad Stock of David Hill Winery came by yesterday. Really brilliant winemaker, formerly of Minimus Wines. Brought some Piquette, so we're going to be like brewing with beers that are hybridized with Piquette.
Wine beer.
Yeah.
You haven't bought winebeer.com yet, have you?
I don't know. I have to. No, I
I
don't
don't.
think so.
It's
I
going
think
to be a
it's-
race.
I think
yeah?
it's I think
Is it
it's
already taken?
Wine
Oh, I've
beer?
already looked it up.
It's cool.
I had a Paquette.
We almost made
had
a Paquette.
like
Yeah.
We love Paquette.
6 months ago. I was like, this is tasty. This is like wine beer.
My first taste
And
was like, this is awful. And then after my
second
second taste, I was
taste
like,
is
oh,
like, oh, yeah.
actually,
It's
get
funny
it.
that
I just
first
didn't.
taste is
I
a
just
little
didn't know
like,
what to expect.
Yeah.
We love it.
Yeah.
It's super cool. So those are, wine beer hybrids are definitely kind of an emerging topic in the beer world, and it's fun. With all these wineries around, why wouldn't we?
Right.
So we've done some with Anna, me, Argyle. There have been a handful of really like fruitful collabs with wineries, and they just generally come about organically with, winemakers or their teams here, and we start talking. Next thing you know, we're like, hey, let's hang out and do something.
Yeah.
So
They're like, we have 2 tons of skins and seeds.
Yeah.
If you want them, you can have them.
yeah.
So when you do those collaborations, are they sold here? Are they sold there? Are they sold both?
Generally here, I would say about 80% of the beer we make is sold right here in this tasting garden. We do export some beer into Portland and then area restaurants and hotels and stuff. But for the most part, our beer is consumed, sold and consumed here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 80%.
That's
What
a
a cool
beautiful
business
thing.
model.
In these times, it's been kind of crazy being open and
Yeah,
closed a
that's
lot. But the idea was to bring people to this, make this a kind of a hub, a home, a destination for like-minded beer drinkers, hopefully, and then locals,
Right.
just Newburgh locals.
So from a wine perspective, we always talk about case production.
Mm-hmm.
In the beer world, is it gallons produced? And then we talk about like boutique wineries or micro boutique wineries. How is this?
Where we fit in.
Categorized.
What are
Yeah.
you?
Where are we
how
on the
would
totem
you-
pole?
Right.
Yeah, they are right. Exactly.
On the-
From amount produced compared to your neighbors.
So on the totem pole of Oregon breweries, we would be near the bottom third probably in production. We brewed 180 barrels. So a brewer's barrel is 31.5 gallons.
Okay.
So a BBL is the unit of measure. And last year in 2020, we hit about 340 barrels. So roughly double where we started in 2016. But we just added 3 new fermenters as well. So we'll be making a leap forward, particularly in beers that we're going to export out of the area. So we're still going to be in the middle of the pack, if not below the halfway line. But it's hard to say. We're growing a little bit, but I would consider us one step above nano brewery right now.
Yeah.
And but on our way to a mid-sized brewery for the state.
Cool.
Hopefully.
Now you're canning. Do you have a canning line in house?
We don't. We use
Okay.
a craft canning and bottling. So
Yeah.
they come out from Portland to help us on our bigger batches. But we did buy a small canning line that's coming in July, so
Cool.
we'll be able to do kind of one-offs and
Yeah.
reserves through that.
Yeah.
So
And are you kegging much for the restaurants in the area?
yeah, the first account for us outside of the brewery was Reddick Wood
Yeah.
in Newburgh. So
God, I love Paul Loesch.
great
He's
people.
my man crush.
He was on last week.
Yeah.
I literally just delivered a keg there when I drove in. I was coming back
Yeah.
from there. Very supportive. And then, honestly, a lot of places in the valley have been really embraced us and helped us out. We made a beer for the Allison Hotel for their 10th anniversary, and a lot of places have had our beer at one time or another. So it's been cool. We're a little bit off the beaten track with our styles, and we're definitely not the first brewery that people think of when someone says like IPA or some of them really popular styles. But we make them too. They all sell out, and
The honeycomb.
honeycomb. I think you've had honeycomb.
Delicious. Yeah.
Thank you. That's in the tank right now. So we're kind of trying to be a lot of things to all people in a way, which can be exhausting, but it's also kind of the way we really want to have a full flowering of styles and meet a lot of different kind of style points. We're not
Yeah.
trying to be too narrow.
Yeah. I want to dive into farming, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Real quick,
Now-
Wesley, before Christian,
go for
I have to know where the name Wolves and People comes from.
Oh, nice.
Ah.
Okay, so I mentioned growing up here on the farm. When we were kids, there was a game that we played about this time of night called Wolves and People. So you would wait till dusk, elect a wolf. So you'd get to be the wolf, for example, and us people would go and turn around and count to 10 while the wolf hides, and then when it's time to turn around, it's terrifying because you can no longer see the wolf, but you have to get across the meadow or the yard or whatever without getting tagged. So you must cross. Everyone's crossing. It's like, oh, he's gonna get me. Where's the wolf? Sure enough, he's gonna get someone, and then there's 2 wolves, and so on.
Yeah.
So the winner of the game is the last person, but it sucks to be chased by a pack of wolves. So
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
it's
an
that
awesome
dual
But
nature.
it's exhilarating.
It's
though.
great, but it sucks too at the same time.
What a cool homage to your childhood, though.
Love it.
Yeah, it's a true
That's-
story. It
that's
still
awesome.
happens in the
Yeah.
summer. We still will play it, and the older we get, the less likely you're gonna get dragged off the porch. Say, oh, really? You guys really want to play that? Okay, but my nieces and nephews will definitely still fire it up at night.
Post-COVID, can we all drink a lot and come join the game?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
would
God.
love to play that game.
that'll be the day. It's
Big
so fun.
field, lots of space.
Now, are we planning to farm on the property here? I know we had a conversation like a year ago
Yeah.
about dreams.
Yes, so this is happening right now on the farm. So there's still about 11 acres of hazelnuts that are productive, and my folks run a nut stand that's out on 99, and then we use hazelnuts in 2 year-round beers. So in terms of like just immediate farm production, that's one of the things that's going into our beers. La Truffe, which we're going to taste later, and a beer called Nut Farm. But we also did just plant 3 acres of barley on a parcel that's just north of the brewery here on land that we lease from A to Z Wineworks. So that was an initial test to see how the site responds to organic planting of a local variety developed at Oregon State called Full Pint. And the goal is to, we're going to reset and replant in about 2 weeks the same variety but a spring plant. That's a crop that can be planted in either winter or spring. So we're planting those 5 acres. The goal is to harvest anywhere between 10 and 20 tons of barley in August, and we're going to take that over to Mecca Grade Estate Malt, which is a maltings in Madras, Oregon.
Okay.
Malt it there, custom malt it with Seth Klon, who's a farmer and maltster, a great guy, and bring what we need back here to use as our base malt. So we'll be one of the few breweries, honestly, and knock on wood, in the world that is growing their own barley on site. It's just impossible to find the right site. But I always believe that this site was that site. I mean, this is what we talked about.
Yeah.
It's a crazy impractical, crazy over expensive. You can go out and with a click of a button, any brewery in the world can click their mouse and get a 18-wheeler full of great barley, world-class barley, almost the next day. There's no problem getting great raw materials, but for us, it wouldn't be worth it if we weren't going to try at least try that and see if we can make this site really express itself through the beers.
Yep.
So we're just kind of here to hope. Guide that process along, really.
You have a
I
name
really
for that
believe
already?
in the site.
You have a name for that already?
The malt?
Yeah.
It'll be a name for the farm. The farm's called Springbrook,
Okay.
which is, a place name here. I thought about that name for the brewery, but Wolves and Peoples, I think,
Way
catchier
cooler.
name.
Way cooler.
Bingo.
And Springbrook is a good, historic, pioneering kind of name. So that's going to be the name of the malt.
See, this is really cool. When people ask me why I've stayed in the Valley, it's stories like this. It's like Andrew Beckham, right? One of the only people in the world to grow his own grapes, make his own wine in the vessels he's creating. Like, there is this sense of place. There's a pride in the land that we have, and there's a pride in the craft. And it's really fun to be a part of this community where we have so many
it's a great
artists.
story.
Andrew's amazing. We have one of his amphora. We got one of the first ones that went to a brewery, and we have a beer in it now. I really look up to him, and his beautiful operation up there. Unusual grape varieties, hand firing 350-pound clay pots. It's mind blowing.
Unreal.
It's hard to
Unreal.
really
Yeah, we got to
understand.
walk it all. It was incredible.
It's really
So
cool.
we talked about, you just mentioned Andrew having some unique varietals.
Yeah.
When it comes to hops and barley, I understand it from a grape perspective, from a wine perspective, but from a beer standpoint, it's all new to me. How are you going about choosing your barley, your hops? Are there standouts like for Pinot, Baden'sville, Pomard, 777? Those are the superstars.
Yeah, it's a good analogy. I mean, a lot of people say hops are to beer as grapes are to wine.
Okay.
It's kind of a varietal delineation. It's much more complex than that, and without being too beer geeky about it, hops really are kind of the loudest and most current kind of demarcation in beer.
Okay.
And a lot of brewers are, kind of competing for the supply line of some of the trendiest hops coming from around the world. So it's many grown in Oregon, right down the way, but many also grown in Australia, New Zealand, and other parts of the world. I mean, for us, I would say from the barley side, we're looking for quality and locality. So we use most of our barleys coming from Eastern Oregon.
Okay.
And then by next year, if all goes well, we'll be using mostly our own malt from the estate. So that's like the dream from the start, was to get there. As far as hops are concerned, I would say we're a little bit of an outlier in that we are not actively fighting in that hops kind of arms race to be like, we have the most X, Y, or Z, because we can't really buy them on scale like other breweries. You know, and if you're trying to buy the hottest, trendiest hops, they can be up to $25, $28 a pound. And yes, they sell fast and they're amazing. Some of them have just explosive flavors that are really cool. They're loud though too, and that's not what Wolves and People is about. We're really trying to brew more balanced beers that, you know, express a lot. Which is not to say that all of trendy beers aren't good. It's just that we're different. We're doing things in a little more of a restrained way. Our hopping rates tend to be quite a lot lower than a lot of popular beers right now, because we want a little bit more of a balanced experience that people are going to come back to and try again and again, and not be like, oh, that was amazing, tick, now I'm going to go get the next one and I'll never try that again.
Right. We
want to create, you know, like a fan base for certain beers. But there are hop varieties, just to quickly answer what your original question, that are Oregon, you know, native hops, or come from out of the Oregon breeding programs, like Cashmere. It's Cashmere. Cashmere is an incredible hop that tastes like lemons and blueberries and pine needles, and we use that in a beer coming up called Farmer Tan, and we use it in a sour beer called Uvat right now. And it's just it's such a beautiful, fresh, unusual hop that is unlike any other hop in the world, as far as I'm concerned. So we're big fans of Cashmere, and that's grown right down the road at Crosby Hop Farm in Hubbard. Yeah, and you know, those guys are big fans of what we do, and vice versa. And you know, we go over there often.
Yeah, it's fun to get on the other side of the Willamette River and just drive, and you see these giant trellising systems of hops.
This is, I mean, this is like hop Vana here, like
hop,
a lot of
hop
stuff.
Vana.
So many good hops growing here.
Okay, my last question before I move on. Why? And we've talked about this a lot. We're creating a wine label and we're working on our branding. Why is there so much freedom in the beer world to have the coolest freaking labels that doesn't seem to exist in other alcohol beverages? I mean, the wine world is coming that direction, but it's slow. But you go look at beer labels.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's like psychedelic art.
Oh yeah, no, there's anything goes.
So much flexibility.
Anything goes. Yeah, I mean, and some people might feel it's gone a little too far, where there's like, it's hard to tell the difference between brands. The beer community is so involved now that, you know, and so like communicative with each other. They can pick up a can and maybe it literally looks like a green mirror or something, and there's no branding on it at all.
Right.
You're like, I know that is from X Brewery.
it.
You recognize they tip the can under and look at the date code, and it says some little wink wink thing. It's like a secret. It's like a secret language that's being spoken among beer fans today. Or yesterday when Chad was here, he said something like, you know, kind of, you know, tongue in cheek, but he was like, I feel like the beer world is 100 years ahead of wine in terms of like brand freedom.
For sure.
I don't know if he would want me to be saying that, but he was expressing that like in a way, like in just in admiration, and like anything goes. I think that's true. I think there's a lot to be said for having a brand that's still cool and recognizable in 20 or 30 years versus just 12 days, 12 months. And right now the beer world is going through this like incredible buzzy vibe with like can drops. They just explode into the marketplace and they're gone, and then never to be seen again. Yeah. So that's the world we're living in. No one thinks it's gonna last forever, but it's exciting. We're kind of not really players in that world. I would say we don't have can drops that like disappear, and you know, we've had one-offs. But anyway,
but your labels are beautiful. They're expressive. They're
fun.
They're
fun.
You know, I have to thank you. I have to give all credit to Jason Sturgill. He's our artist. He's a Portland artist. Great guy. We worked very closely together before the brewery was even open. He came out here and spent a day with me talking about the vision, the concept, everything, the name. The first thing he designed was that logo and this sign, this symbol on my hat, the WAP symbol. Just kind of like, it was incredible. But I mean, that's why he's a great designer with his whole following of his own. He's like, oh, like this. I'm like, oh yeah, God. I mean, it would take me 100 years to come up with that. And and he nails it as a sketch. I'm like, okay, you're amazing.
Yeah.
And from that point
Take
on,
my money.
he's designed every single label. And we were in touch every week talking about everything. So we're over 40, 50 labels now at this point. And T-shirts and everything else. So he's very playful though, and in keeping with the game, the idea was to like give him the freedom to like be playful and expressive and kind of lighthearted with the labels, but also a unique design language. And hopefully people see our labels and know them kind of just when they see them.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah, when we started talking about our labels, I just dropped 3 IPA cans on the table. I was like, this is what I want.
Well,
I want a psychedelic monster in hot pink and blue.
Yeah.
And
why not? I
I
mean,
will say the simplicity of the Postman. I saw this beer at John's Marketplace. Stands out big time off the shelf. It's a beautiful can.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, really good label.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really sharp.
we'll see where we end up. And I think our label is actually gonna be a little shocking when
We've
it
got
comes to
some
the wine
fun
world.
ideas.
Yeah,
I want to hear more about this.
I
But
think we'll do it
We'll
off
do it
camera.
off camera.
Actually, speaking of which, we're going to take a little break.
I gotta pee.
Pour the next beer and then get into top beers to try here in the Willamette Valley.
Let's do it.
We'll be right back.
All right, John.
But that's what everybody remembers is the Polish. Oh,
yeah.
you're just a normal guy, but your name is all fucked up. So anyway, so we have in front of us the La Truffe.
La Truffe.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about La Truffe.
Yeah, so this is a truffle beer. We make this in collaboration with the Oregon Truffle Festival. You're getting it, right? You're getting it. So this is a project that goes way back. I was a guest at the Oregon Truffle Festival in like 2010, promoting my first book, and I was like, I'm gonna open a brewery someday, and when I do, I'd love to make a truffle beer because I had that experience of going out with the truffle hunters and the dogs running through the woods, and they were like, follow that dog. And next thing you know, I'm on my hands and knees next to the dog, and the dog's going crazy. And and they're like, "Oh, there it is!" And
Go get it. And you're like, "Where is it? Where is it?"
And I find the truffles, and it was an amazing lightning bolt.
It's like digging
moment.
for gold, isn't it?
It is.
It's a lot of fun.
It makes you a little crazy.
Well,
and they're like, I'm like, what do I do with the truffles? Like, you can just take them home, so put them in your pocket. So I'm like, okay, oh my God, and what do I do with these when I get home? And then the Truffle Fest organizers were like, well, put some butter, some salt, some eggs, kind of infuse things. And that was where the seed of La Truffe beer was planted. And so when we opened, actually before we opened, at the Barlow Room, sister to the Joel Palmer House, we were invited to do a dinner.
that's right.
Yes,
I forgot about that.
That's where we
that
first
was
connected.
During Truffle Festival. Yeah,
Truffle Fest.
Yep.
And my first. One of the first people I worked with here at the brewery, Jake Miller, and I brewed a collaboration beer with the Truffle Fest. We got our hazelnuts infused. We brewed just a 5-gallon batch, served it at the Barlow Room, and it was really fun. I mean, people really went nuts on the beer.
Wow.
And so the next year, and we served it at the marketplace the next day, and people are like, can we buy this beer? I'm like, no, I have a partial keg, and I was just giving it away. And then next year
I sold this?
Yeah, we scaled
What
it
a
up,
concept.
and then each year since we've made one batch a year, the same a small batch, and this is the latest incarnation. We've only subtly changed the recipe, changing up the grain bill a little bit, but it is truffle infused filberts or hazelnuts.
That's wild.
So the beer is only 5% ABV. It's meant to be a light, sociable. We call it a table stout, a milk stout, if you will.
Okay.
So it has some lactose in it. But that's La Truffe. We just released this recently. So
This doesn't
Very cool.
taste anywhere close to what I thought it would when I saw it poured in the glass.
Yeah.
This is incredible.
you're getting the truffle.
Yeah.
And then-
My guy Chris Martin would drink the heck out of this.
Chris, there we go. We'll get you a bottle.
It has kind of like a cola taste almost.
Yeah.
in a way. But then later what's going to happen is a truffle, you start to retro-nasally kind of taste and experience a truffle.
Oh.
And we always talk about truffle burps with this beer. So truffle burps coming
Truffle burps in my life, man. I'll tell you.
up.
I preach the gospel of truffle burps.
You live, breathe, and sweat truffles, right?
Yeah,
So
fart. Yeah.
all of the above.
All the above. I'm just a brass band.
That's La Truffe. So it has it's a beer we make once a year, and it's just it's difficult to make, no question.
Yeah.
Mm.
No, that's
It's
cool.
fun.
It's a benefit to the valley to have more truffle stuff because I believe in truffles in this valley. Like I think in 15 years or so, we could have our, really own Truffle Festival, Truffle Month, Truffle Season here, where, there's more products like this, and there's truffle hunts and foods that are really, themed around it. But we got a little bit of work to do. But
yeah, no, I agree. It was an eye opener for me. The first Oregon Truffle Fest was so fun. I've been able to experience the one in Alba too, and it's just this interesting world of like hardcore, kind of like foodies and truffle fans. There's like a little subculture, and that I'm attracted to subcultures like that. I just want to know what makes this tick. Why are these people so into this? What's the deal? And then once you get in there and you realize, and you seeing those moments when a chef is like shaving them, or
that's the thing in Oregon. You've got you definitely have this like combining of worlds and cultures of like the high end food of like truffle, but then the truffle hunters themselves are like a lot of scroungy fucking people. Like they're people who just love the woods.
Yeah, love the woods.
And and they're not necessarily like highfalutin, like living in big houses and
it's about
drinking
foraging.
expensive bottles. Yeah, they love getting out there. So it's these two worlds that kind of work well together. The Truffle Festival.
There's actually the first beer that we got a formula approval for from the federal government, and I'm sure it was the first formula involving truffles in beer that was applied for. There are a few other truffle beers in the world, but mostly in Europe or in these like really small kind of one-off things, and it was really hard to get an approval for it. They were like, "What do you mean the truffles aren't in the beer?" And we're like, "Well,
oh god, yeah,
it's just the aroma." And they're like, "Well, what does that mean?" I'm like, "I don't want to. I mean, do we?"
The gases that are
the gases, and they're like, "Well, what quantity?" I'm like, "I don't know how many molecules, but it's enough to detect." And truffles are pretty strong.
Did you have to get like OSU to like test it and find out how much is in there and all that kind of stuff?
No, it's someday. In a way, I like not knowing. I like just kind of like I don't want to scientifically.
It tastes great.
Good. Let's leave it
at that.
Right.
All right, we gotta move on.
All right.
So our top list is
top handful
of specific beers to try in the Willamette Valley.
Yeah.
So not necessarily
A
specific
cumulative
breweries, but these are 5 or 6 or whatever it ends up being specific beers that sing to the beer lovers at the table.
And 2 on the list are from the farm we're sitting on.
There we go. Right. Take it away.
So we already mentioned the Postman Pale Ale. That's what we were drinking earlier.
Yeah, it was already on the list before.
This in our glass we just spent a couple minutes talking about.
Yep.
Paul Long is a local legend.
Absolutely.
He's a gentleman that has a story for everything. When I was working at Barley and Vine, he'd come in, and I knew it was a half an hour conversation. He would pull up to the bar. I'd pour him his because he wanted to check to see the quality of it coming out the tap, which I totally respect.
Yeah.
And then 3 or 4 other samples.
I think he's living his best life.
Oh my gosh.
He just kind of gets around and sells his beer.
He's a wealth of knowledge too.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, he'll entertain you.
But the Kolsch is your go-to?
The Kolsch.
Yeah.
His IPA is really good too.
This Kolsch is so refreshing. It's like one of the best summer beers in the area.
Yeah.
I think it's delicious.
His IPA is what I'm getting in bottle if I'm at Red Hills Market.
I think Megan likes the Kolsch, and he does a lager as well, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't like super hoppy beers, so I have to kind of get...
Okay.
We'll talk about that later, because I can't come home empty-handed.
Okay, no worries.
Okay.
But Paul's a local legend.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, before I was even opening the brewery, but just working as a beer writer, I went to visit him and learn about his operation and mention him in, my book, and just, like, really wanted to, like, know what it was like being a brewer here in Newburgh, because he's the first one, as far as I know, brewing beer in the city since Prohibition, probably. And so, yeah, really a cool, supportive guy. Been over here many times and vice versa. And it's just right up the road.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure. It's nice to have more. We need more breweries in the area too. We're always hoping more and more projects come along.
Maybe right here on Benjamin, you could call it like Brewers Alley or some dope ass name like that.
Something tells me that's not going to happen.
We'll just let that one die.
Let it slide.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, more breweries the better. And Paul's a great dude.
Yeah.
I'm going to Brewers Alley. Sorry.
I drink Evasion's. It's a blonde from Evasion, and it's a gluten-free brewery.
Yep.
If I remember my story correctly, McMinnville.
Yeah.
Kind of in the industrial area, over by Ivory.
The Pinot Ghetto.
Sure.
Which people, that's what it used to be called. Now it's called the Granary District. Pinot Ghetto is the real name.
I think Evasion's a little further down.
Is it? Well, Ivory is
kind of down.
Ivory's.
Yeah.
It's a couple blocks, and down around the corner. But if memory serves, A family member had a gluten sensitivity. And I don't know the scale of the sensitivity, so I won't go there. But wanted to make beer that family member could really enjoy.
Yeah.
And it's incredible, top to bottom. Like, I think for a long time there was a fad of gluten-free beers, and some of them were just not really great.
No, yeah.
But these, I've enjoyed everything I've experienced.
Yeah, we
whole
actually
flight.
we sell the IPA and the blonde here.
Okay.
And it's almost every day we're open, someone requests a gluten-free beer.
Right.
The brewer's joke is that, like, okay, traditional beer is a gluten delivery system. If you are averse to gluten, do not drink beer or traditional beer. It's all gluten. We haven't ourselves made one, although we talk about using some glutinous grains like millet and sorghum, stuff like that. But anyway, Evasion's really cool. They actually have helped us before. Many times we've brought kegs over there before. We had our own keg washer. I would load up the van and run over there and hang out with Ben, who brews there, and wash some kegs and just catch up.
Yeah.
Good people.
Yeah. Heater Island's another that just does it right. We have the Dunkel on the list. But again, another brewer that
Their Pils is also really awesome.
Yeah.
The Heater Island Pils.
I'm not really a Pils guy,
love
so
them.
I trust your opinion on this.
I love Pilsners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Huge
Heater
fan.
Island, legendary. I don't know if you guys have heard this story, but our brew house is their original brew house.
Really?
So, yeah, the copper-clad brew house in there was the original system that Rick started with. And I heard that he was going to expand back in about 2012, 2013. And I went to visit him, and he had the brew house, that one right there, sitting out in the back behind the brewery under tarps. And he was planning on selling it, but he hadn't listed it with a broker or whatever. And I was like, hey, I'm thinking about building a brewery. I don't have any money yet. But would you consider selling it to me? He's like, oh, we went back and forth, talked about it. And he's like, yeah, I'd like to see it stay in the valley too. That'd be cool.
Could I trade you for some creative writing? Was that your pitch?
No, you want to know what I traded for it?
Oh, tell me.
A 5-pound bag of hazelnuts.
Oh, shit.
As the deposit.
Okay.
The real money came later.
Okay.
But I actually brought
This
him
is
a
my
5-pound
earnest money.
He was happy
5-pound
to have
bag.
him, probably.
Yeah.
I did. I put it on the bar and I was like, I'm dead serious. Can we make a deal? I will make this happen. And he said, you got a deal.
Love it.
True story.
He had some skin in the game. Hazelnuts. All right. Well, I think that was a pretty good list.
Yeah.
People, there's plenty of beer to drink, not just breweries to visit, but also great places like we talked about before to have a pint.
Yeah.
Like Ruddick would, etc. So you can come. You can have beer. You can have spirits. You can have wine.
Yeah.
Lots of options.
Well, and all this great wine is made because winemakers are drinking good beer.
There you go. It takes a lot of
That's,
beer to make wine. I fear.
It's true.
All right. So we're gonna move on to our sports minute.
60 seconds.
Yeah, 60 seconds. We can do it.
Go.
Chris Weidman.
Goodness
God, that was
gracious.
disgusting.
Ouch.
Full circle.
Full
Yeah.
circle. Interesting story.
Most ironic
Anderson
injury
Silva broke
ever.
his leg on Chris Weidman's shin.
Yep.
Circle around.
Horribly.
And then he's fighting.
What's
Cole.
his name?
Some other guy.
Who'd he fight?
Yeah, the Ultimate
He
Fighter
fought-
guy.
Uriah Hall?
Uriah Hall.
Uriah Hall. Broke his leg on Uriah Hall.
Yeah.
Uh,
Badly.
Horribly.
And that was Anderson Silva's first loss was against Chris Weidman. His last loss was against Uriah Hall.
It's weird.
So it's a really weird love
Weird.
triangle with
Yeah, so that
broken
was
legs.
gross. We were watching it, the pay-per-view, and they were like, "We're gonna show this twice. Viewer discretion is advised." And that was it. They showed it. They kept the camera on Hall. They didn't have the camera on Weidman.
It was brutal. I
He
mean,
was,
it's
like,
the first
screaming
compound
and, like,
fracture
it
I've
was
seen that's gone through the
fucked.
skin.
When he went to step on it after he didn't realize it was not
Yeah.
broken.
Brutal.
Oh God.
Yeah. Moving on.
Oh, it was a great card. By
We're
the
gonna
way.
talk, we're gonna talk
The
a
whole
little
card.
baseball. Shohei Ohtani of the Angels, the first player to start a game as a pitcher while leading the major leagues in homers in 100 years. I love two-way players. It makes me so happy.
Yeah.
And of course, the last guy to do it, Babe
Ruth.
fucking Ruth, the best of all time. And I love the Babe because he would strike your ass out and then go take you yard.
Yeah.
Like I ate up those little like sports books as a kid, like about
Yeah.
the Babe and
Yeah.
all these other like Michael Jordan and shit.
I did too. I
These
listened
two-way
to him
players
on-
are so cool.
on cassette tape in my
Oh.
room because I was
Yeah.
homeschooled.
I'll one up that, Stefan.
Yeah.
So, not to say that Ohtani, is that how you pronounce it?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
I don't speak Japanese.
I'm just gonna.
But yes.
Okay. I'm just gonna say I don't know a ton about baseball, but I observe all sports from a distance,
Fair.
and I appreciate Major League Sports. So, Jacob Degrom, the Mets pitcher, this season, he has hit in more runs than he's allowed.
That guy's a fucking machine.
He has 50 strikeouts in 4 starts. He's struck out close to 50% of the batters he's gone up against. There's never, ever been a player that's had this kind of... They're talking about how they're going to have to move the mound back after the season, and that the 2021 season will be like how Wilt Chamberlain, the rules were changed because of him. This guy, they're going to have to change the rules.
I don't think that's going to happen.
No
but
way.
Still, that's
No
crazy.
way.
That's
No,
what they-
Baseball has
yeah.
too much tradition.
I was watching. No, I watched. He was pitching today.
He's
and
unreal.
he was just a little bit off today, and they scored like 1 run on him or something.
Yeah.
Like the guy is just
He's
a
dynamite.
flamethrower and he's
I
just
mean, he hits
he's just a
100
Terminator.
regularly.
He's like a Terminator up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, DeGrom's impressive.
Incredible.
All right, that was some hot sports talk right there.
Yeah.
And we did it in 60 seconds. Look at us.
Ish.
We're getting better at what we do.
Okay. Brutal and beautiful.
Siobhan?
It's been a brutal week because we're back to high risk.
Yeah.
Other counties are back to extreme risk, some of which are in the Willamette Valley. And extreme risk right now means no indoor
Right.
service at all. The one bright spot in that is at least the weather's been good enough that people can be
Right.
outside. Whereas
It's not
like
January. Right.
was like you just simply cannot
Right.
have wine
Right.
and food outside.
Well, and businesses have built the infrastructure around outdoor dining at this point. So
Right. More prepared.
it sucks,
this
but
time.
at least there has been that.
Yes.
We have the back inventory of tables and chairs and heaters if we need them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
let's hope so.
COVID's it's still around. I mean, the Allison, that was the other brutal. The Allison closing for 2 weeks. First, it was 1 week. Now they're closed for another week, and I've had multiple cancellations because of it.
I have 2.
Brutal, for sure. Like, brutal for them, and brutal for us,
For us.
and other people around. Some people were able to reschedule at other local lodging.
Right.
Which is, hey, good for La Bastide or whatever, who
Right.
might not see these people otherwise. So,
Right.
Whatever. But, yeah, it sucks for the Allison. I
It's
think
tough.
That's 2 weeks. They had an exposure, I think, of a staff member.
Yeah, staff member.
But they're playing it safe. So, you got to do what you got to do.
Yep.
Um,
In Brutal, we oftentimes we talk about what we like and what we don't like, and part of what we haven't liked in the past were bicyclists late in the afternoon while we're driving wine tours, especially out on the country roads. There just isn't a bike lane. There isn't a shoulder,
Right.
and so you end up having folks who've been tasting all day that give a wide berth on a blind corner, and our tour vehicles are coming
The other way. Yeah,
head
yeah.
on in them.
we're trying to get to our next appointment on time.
Right,
and
right, right.
Really.
So we,
So nerve wracking.
Right, but there are a handful of occasions where that's acceptable, and it's when you're with a bike tour company. Well,
And we talked about it.
we talked about it, but we couldn't remember the name of the bike tour company,
Okay.
and they watch. And
Somebody did.
Windy Roads.
Windy Roads.
Windy
We have to give a
Roads.
lot of love to these guys. They're intentionally keeping folks safe
This is a good
on their
thing.
bike tours. If you're gonna come bicycle around wine country, do it with a guide
Do it
that's
with
gonna
a
keep you
guide.
in a safe environment, and you
Like
can
that.
still drink at incredible wineries.
Yep. Good folks.
So Windy
They'll keep you
Roads,
safe.
I apologize from the bottom of my heart. Asher, if you're watching again, so sorry. If you want to ride bicycles, Windy Roads is
Check
is
'em
the
out,
crew to do it with.
But they, in a classy way, they were like, "Hey, by the way, here's the name," and they
yeah,
hit us up with some
you,
swag.
you forgot
So-
about us, so they gave us T-shirts.
Thanks.
Oh,
So
nice.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys.
Okay, and beautiful. I have so
Give us a backstory.
so there's a little brutal to it. Wine Valley Vineyards is, I think, our only publicly traded winery.
Yeah.
And you can buy shares at of Wine Valley Vineyards.
And we love Jim Burnett. Like, we're not talking
Jim's like
shit
one of the
about.
classiest guys in the valley.
Right.
No.
We've
we're
had him
not-
on the podcast.
No,
Love
they're
them.
doing what they do, and
Right.
it is what it is, and I'm not going to criticize it at all. But if you're an owner of this stock or whatever at
Right.
maybe I think you might have to have a certain amount, but I'm not even sure. You can get a card like I'm an owner of Willamette Valley Vineyards, and they think, oh, this is going to be kind of a cool, cute thing to do for our investors and everything. I'm like, okay, that's great. Well, what these people now have done is they've taken these cards out to wineries and saying, hey, we're industry. And they want free tastings and they want discounts and stuff like that.
We're part owners of Willamette Valley.
We're owners.
Vineyards.
We're industry. And so
Maybe a bit of
Cruising-
a stretch.
Yeah.
so cruising the interwebs on the Facebook, somebody on our one of our tasting pages, Willamette Valley winery pages, was like, hey guys, how do you deal with this? They weren't like ragging on them or anything.
Right.
I read the thread though, and there were some people that were ragging on it, and other people were like,
That's the nature of
"Yeah."
Facebook, though.
It absolutely is. It's those two dogs barking on the other side of the fence, and some people had some good feedback and everything. But I came across Christine Collier-Claire's response, and she is a marketing director or something from Wild Valley Vineyards.
Yeah.
She read the post and was like, hey, I'm going to respond to this, and I'm going to read it because I thought it was just such a great response from a large winery who they literally could be like, fuck off,
Right.
like it doesn't matter, like, so, but it wasn't that way. So, hi, Willamette Valley Wineries, we apologize. This has been an issue and a challenge for you. We communicate with all of our winery owners, shareholders, at their time of investment. It does not include any industry benefits. We also place language about this on the cards they receive with the title winery owner. It seems we still have a few owners that are inquiring about discounts or tastings against our reminder communications on this topic. It is not our expectation that any winery owners receive discounts or tastings at any winery other than our own. We're sorry this has become a customer service issue, and we can refer any owners to me at Christine, whatever, and a phone number. I'd be happy to contact them and explain again why it is not appropriate for them, as they are not working members of the industry, to get this benefit. And it just felt refreshing.
Yeah.
Because they could have totally
Slow
ignored
clap.
it.
Slow
Right.
clap.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah, they could have just totally blown it off.
Right.
And instead, she wrote this very measured and classy response, and it was beautiful. So I think that's a slow clap for Willamette Valley Vineyards.
I think if we had a nickel for every person who came up to our front here and said they're in the industry, it'd be a lot. We love being a hub for people,
Right.
but we can't extend discounts to every single person that comes through. I mean,
Right.
this is a stopover for so many winery folks, restaurant folks, and we wish we could. We try to be as welcoming as possible. We just couldn't afford to stay in business otherwise.
Right.
I get, that is such a man. We could have a longer segment about that. Maybe we'll save that for industry.
That feels
folks.
like a good.
Yeah,
industry
we'll
folk
save that because I have
conversation.
thoughts on
Inside
that.
baseball. Yeah.
We could do some role playing.
Let's not.
I don't know. I have a theater background. We could, okay.
Christian, before we say goodbye,
Yes.
is there anything you're stoked about right now? Is there anything you want to plug? Is there anything upcoming that the Valley should know about?
Yes, there is. I'm glad you asked. On May 17th, we're going to be releasing a new beer called Keep Oregon Green. We have released this beer once before in cans. We make this beer in collaboration with a lot of people who help us create it, and it is all about wildfire relief. We're coming off one of the hardest experiences in memory for so many Oregonians.
Yep.
Even here in the Valley, we saw it, the wine harvest, even seeing the side of fires on Parrot Mountain and up on Shalem Mountains here. Shocking, sobering sight, certainly. So Keep Oregon Green is done in collaboration with all these players, one of whom is a Mecca Grade Estate malt that sends us a malt they call Lion's Head. It is smoke-tainted malt that is nevertheless great in beer. It's working fine. The smoke kind of registers as a fruity note, really, rather than anything else. It's pretty mild. But we make this beer, and we're able to make a big donation to the Oregon Community Foundations. It's like a task force that the governor set up to directly benefit, people who were, displaced by the fire, lost their homes in Detroit and other parts of the state. So we're really proud of that. We're able to, donate for the first time ever. We've done a lot of little charity things, but to donate literally thousands of dollars to directly help people who were, so traumatized. And we're going to do it again because, unfortunately, we fear there could be ongoing problems. So not to go end on a down note, but I think that we hope this beer, not in addition to being delicious, it's an oak-aged IPA. So we ferment it in white wine barrels that came from Anami Winery. We use this cool yeast strains, all sorts of neat stuff going on it. Oregon hops. It's just a really cool project all around, and beautiful, one of our favorite labels ever. But we're also able to, go ahead and kick some of those proceeds back to just anticipate, help educate, and adapt to the damages from fires and wildfires in Oregon. So May 17th, that will be coming out. It will be available statewide through our distributor, Upstanding, which is based in Portland. So I would say that's one of the things we're most excited about to get out there. And then all kinds of other beers coming out on draft all the time here. We're always bringing out new stuff. So we want people to come here and experience the beer garden, taste the new stuff we bring out almost every week. Every 2 weeks we have a new beer.
Yeah. What are your open hours?
Thursday through Sunday, 2 to 8 p.m.
Okay.
Yep,
And you
kids
allow-
and yes,
And you allow outside food.
we do. We do allow outside food.
May you live for 100 years.
Yes, we allow outside food. We sell some snacks, and we're also going to be announcing very soon a partnership with Honey Pie Pizza, where people can order their pizza from the tasting garden here, and then have it delivered in like 1 or 2 allotments that will come out. So we're working on that with them, but
Cool.
we're excited to partner more closely. We know all the current owners, and we made a beer for them actually called Eye of Pie.
Yep. Yeah.
The Eye of Pie. So that's been fun. So that'll be a way that people can come here with their families and pets and whatever, hang out, order a pie, hang out, and be able to have something substantial to eat while they taste the beers.
Cool. Thanks for being here, man.
Cool.
Thank you.
This has
Yeah,
been
this is really
wonderful.
really cool for me too, and
All right.
for all of us.
And this is it for season 1.
Oh, there's a wrap on season
This is a
1.
wrap?
Wrap
We're
on
gonna-
season 1,
we're gonna take a
grand
break.
finale.
Where are the balloons?
There's going to
Well,
be,
you know.
I know, pop. We will be back in early June with new episodes.
Yeah, let's
And, yeah.
we'll still be producing content from the vineyard.
Correct.
We'll still probably have some conversations amongst ourselves. We'll broadcast.
Exactly.
But we want to be really responsible with your time and with ours. Line up our next season.
Yeah.
Spend some time farming our vineyard, which is taking a lot of time.
Yeah, we got some tie downs to do.
So we're gonna take a little break.
Little break.
We're gonna do
We'll
things
be back.
really, really, really well.
Some things might look a little different. A lot of
Yeah.
it's going to look the same. Obviously, Cole wasn't here because Cole's going behind the cammer to do
Yeah.
a little bit more production
Yeah.
stuff. So,
Maybe make us look prettier, Stefan.
maybe it's going to take a lot of touch up on me. You're the talent. All right. If you enjoyed this, please like, follow, subscribe, and for crying out loud, share, and even maybe, I don't know, donate to the Patreon. That'd be
$1 a
fun.
month?
$1 a month? Could you do
$2?
it? Could you do it? Help?
All right.
Or not. That's fine.
It's whatever.
We get it. All right. We'll see you next time in June.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.